Milena Jasinska was born in Prague on August 10, 1896. Her father, Jen Jasinski, was a prominent and prosperous oral surgeon, a professor at Prague's Charles University. He was proud and outspoken Czech nationalist and anti-Semitic. At home, he was short-tempered, egoistic, paternalistic, often tyrannical. Less is known about her mother, Milena Heslerova, who died of anemia when Milena was 13. Milena never forgot the contrast between her soft-spoken mother and a domineering father, a contrast exacerbated by the professor's habit of womanizing and gambling. Although Milena undoubtedly admired her father, her love for him was mixed with hatred and their relationship remained ambivalent. She received a broad education at the well-known, very progressive Minerva School for Girls, where she met her friends Stasa and Jarmila, so often mentioned in the letters. Later, she enrolled in medical school, but soon dropped out, as she did from the music conservatory which followed. She devoted more time to her friends, often instigating escapades considered scandalous. She experimented with drugs stolen from her father's practice. She became involved with men. She spent her father's money lavishly on clothes, presents, flowers. She was emancipated, rebellious, extravagant, decadent, daring, and very much in love with beauty. In his preface to the first edition of these letters, Willy Huss described Milena in her youth. Within quotes, she herself sometimes struck one like a noblewoman of the 16th or 17th century, a character such as Stendhal lifted out of the old Italian chronicles and transplanted into his own novels, the Duchess di San Verena or Mathilde de la Mole. Passionate, intrepid, cool, and intelligent in their decisions, but reckless in her choice of means when her passion was involved, and during her youth it seems to have been involved almost all the time. As a friend, she was inexhaustible in kindness, inexhaustible in resources, whose origin often remained enigmatic, but also inexhaustible in the claims she made on friends, claims which to her as well to her friends seemed only natural. In her wild antics reflected her unsupervised state. Her father busied himself with his own affairs. It was not mere escape. Very much in the spirit of the time, she was consciously developing her very own spiritual aesthetic. She read widely and followed trends in art avidly. She despised the bourgeois provincialism that embittered Czech society in Prague and cultivated friends from both the German and German Jewish literati. Among the latter, she found her first great love, Ernst Pollock. Although the writer himself, Pollock, the expert, exerted substantial influence on Franz and other writers who gathered in the Café Arco, it was he who introduced Milena to Franz Kafka. The liaison with Pollock so outraged Jasinski that he had his daughter committed to a sanatorium in Władysławin for several months. During his stay, however, Milena came of legal age. She was released and the lovers were married and immediately moved to Vienna. For Pollock, this meant little more than leaving the Arco for the Café Central. Social integration was more difficult for his wife, however, whose German was not impeccable. Moreover, while both partners adhered to the theory of the free love espoused by autocross, Milena restricted its practice more than did her husband, whose many romances caused her to suffer. "I am the one who pays," she wrote. According to Huss, she fitted poorly into and suffered under the erotic and intellectual promiscuity of the Viennese literary cafe society during the wild years after 1918. She was also beset with financial worries. Severe shortages, rationing, and extraordinary inflation made life in Vienna generally difficult. To earn money, she taught Czech and later even worked as a porter at the train station. She began writing for periodicals based in Prague. Her first letter from Vienna appeared in the Tribuna on December 30th, 1919. She also tried translation, and in 1920, at the age of 23, she published a Czech version of The Stoker by Franz Kafka. This work led to their exchange of letters, almost all of which were written between April and November 1920. During this time, they met only twice. Later, she visited him when he was very sick, and in the end, she relied on Max Brod to keep her informed. Her letters to Brod are included in the appendix, as is her obituary for Franz Kafka, who died on June 3rd, 1924. By that time, Milena had broken with Ernst Bullock, and in 1925 she returned to Prague and became partially reconciled with her father. There she continued writing fashion articles and feuilletons and entered the circle known as David Still, a group of artists that included the prominent architect Jaromir Kriča. He became Milena's second husband, and in 1928, Pani Milena gave birth to a daughter, Jenna. During pregnancy, however, she developed a partial paralysis in her left leg, from which she never fully recovered, despite drastic cures and long stays in a sanatoria. Morphine treatments led to addiction, which ruined her ability to write. She lost her job and her marriage disintegrated. Membership in the Communist Party helped her to return to a more active life. She also resumed her writing, now for the party press. She formed another close attachment with her comrade, Evsen Klinger. Both eventually broke with the party after the first slow trial and the execution of Zinoviev and Kamenev in 1936. She joined the staff of the Liberal Democratic Journalist Presents, where in articles such as There Will Be No Anschluss, she addressed the growing menace from Nazi Germany. She worked on refugee relief committees, and when Prague was occupied, she helped many Jews, including Klinger, escape Poland. After the Nazis shut down Pritomnost, she continued writing for the underground press until her arrest in November 1939. She was sent to a camp for people who had consorted with Jews and ultimately transported to Ravensbrück. Her biographer and fellow inmate, Margaret Buber Newman, describes in detail Milena's resilience in the concentration camp, her inner strength, which was an inspiration to fellow prisoners, her constant concern for her daughter, and her active resistance despite failing health. On May 17, 1944, after a successful kidney operation, Milena Jasinska died in Ravensbrück.